The greatest beer run ever. That's a pretty cool title, but is the movie good? We're going to talk about it. Well, what is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Still in New York, still watching movies, but right now we have to talk about the brand new Apple TV Plus film that is the greatest beer run ever, directed by Peter Farrelly. We're going to get into it right now. So this is a man's story of leaving New York in 1967 to bring beer to his childhood buddies in the army while they are fighting in Vietnam, based on a true story, and this movie is rated R, so it's not necessarily going to be one for the kids. There is language and some war violence, and some of the violent scenes, well, they could be extremely scarring for younger viewers, but in terms of it being a family movie for older kids, I think it serves that purpose. It's a movie that serves numerous purposes, and there are a lot of themes to dive into and talk about with this film, some of which they did not hit on as much as I would have wanted them to. I think Peter Farrelly does a nice job with the direction, but there are issues with the script. There is a car horn going off. New York is so loud, but I love it. The cast is really good here. Zac Efron is excellent in the lead role. We'll dive more into his performance here in just a second. There are supporting actors, one that I was not expecting. I, for some reason, didn't know Bill Murray was in this movie, so that surprised me. Russell Crowe in the film, a good performance. Did not serve as big of a purpose as maybe I wanted him to. There's like an hour and 25 minutes where I kept waiting on him to show up. I'm like, is he going to come back? Is he going to? Nope, doesn't really serve that big of a role. But it really is this one character's journey. Zac Efron playing Chickie, and Chickie is interesting, man. He feels a very distinct way about war. The role that war plays, the purpose that it serves. That a bunch of his friends, and a lot of these guys around this town, they're buddies, they go out, they go to war. Some of them weren't entirely happy with the decision, but they made it and they did it anyways. And he decides the best way to give back to these friends, the best way to show them that he cares, everyone in the town cares, is to take them a homemade American beer ram. And honestly, this is something that I would struggle believing if it wasn't based on a true story. It's one of those things I'm like, come on, this guy's not actually going to risk his life, not just take chances, risk his life, go out here and do this. But he did, and the way that the movie plays out is so surprising. Now, I will say, here are my three major points about this film. The first act gets off to a rough start. That's point number one. I had problems with the way that it was constructed. I thought the pacing was off. It wasn't getting me engaged with these characters. And even something down to the accents. And I am not the most familiar person with the Boston accent, but it does feel like they were maybe overplaying it just a little bit, Mark Wahlberg. But I was struggling. I'm like Peter Farrelly, the director of Green Book, and Green Book won the Oscar. I've read some reviews for this film, and most of the negative reviews bring up Green Book. Now, it's not a bad thing to bring a movie up when it's the same director, but they don't just bring it up. They bring it up, and it's a lot of complaining about how Green Book won Best Picture and how did it happen, all this stuff. And those specific reviews that I've read, it feels like that is impacting their thoughts and feelings for this movie. Because while this definitely isn't the best, I mean, part of me was thinking, he did it for Green Book, maybe this could have a shot at Best Picture. This is not that film. There are definite flaws and issues, but I've seen scathing reviews of this movie, comparing it to other just absolute garbage films from this year, and I'm thinking to myself, is it that bad? Like, what did they see that makes this feel like it's on that level? Everybody has their own opinion. I understand that. But I don't like letting my thoughts carry over from a previous movie into this. I'm going to try to judge it as a film. And as a film, just talking my expectations, months back, I was thinking this could have a shot. Then the first reactions came out and I said, well, it's not going to have a shot, but is it going to be entertaining, at least? And the second Efron's character gets started on this journey, that's when the movie started to turn for me. That's when the humor started to hit really well. And also, tonally, it worked a lot better. My second big point I want to bring up is the fact that there's a lot to this film beyond its surface. It's playing with these ideas, it's playing with themes, and the obvious statement of, well, war is bad, why do we war? That comes into play multiple times. Maybe they don't dive in like they should have, and it's definitely a surface level movie in its entirety, but there are themes there, and there's a moment or two in the movie where I'm like, okay, that was a really good moment. And then we have my final big point, and it's the way everything wraps up, the finality of it all, not only incorporating interesting action scenes. I mean, it's not an action-packed movie, it's a character journey involving a lot of humor, but there are some really solid, well-made action scenes, but then everything culminates and comes to a head in that third act. And I thought there were numerous conversations and one really emotional moment, and allowing Zac Efron to give a phenomenal performance. Whatever you say about the accent, the dude has a range of emotions in this movie that was really impressive, and one moment kind of secured that at the end when he had to show that emotion. So that was really great. And even though, the movie's up and down as a whole, it couldn't quite nail what it was going for. It was more surface level than it needed to be, and it did get off to a rough start. I was entertained, and I never had trouble getting into the film. Those moments where you just kind of like, okay, what else? No, I was into it. And even though my screener was online, I think this would be an interesting movie at least to see in a theater and see how those war scenes would play out. So before I give you guys my score, thanks for being here. Thanks for dealing with me in my hotel room. I'm busy. I probably just said nonsense for the last 10 minutes. I'm sorry. The greatest beer run ever never fully reaches its potential, as there are unexplored themes and pacing problems in the first act. That being said, Efron is excellent, and the film finds its footing later on. There are plenty of emotionally resonant moments that stand out, and my score is a 62% for the greatest beer run ever. Was it the greatest ever? Well, I guess we'll never know, unless you watch the movie. Then you'll probably know. Hey guys, stick with me. I'm going to have my thoughts on the movies that I've been watching this week coming soon, and of course, all of the other reviews that you're expecting from me. Going to try to see Bros this weekend, so if it's not on the channel now, hopefully it will be soon. All right, guys, I'll see you later.